Hey guys, welcome to my first album review. So today I'm going to be taking a look at Joey Tafolla's 1987 album, Out of the Sun. Let's start by the first impressions by going through the tracks and just having a bit of a chat about them, and then at the end I'll give you a final rating and reasons for that rating. Yeah, let's begin. So overall, it's a good album. The first track starts off quite strong. It dives into this like melodic, punchy rhythm picking, which is kind of a microcosm for the rest of the album. In that he shows you right away that he means business. And so, sorry, the first track is called Eternity's End. And it has a lot of pretty and memorable melodies in this first track. Well, not only in this first track, but in the album in its entirety. I think the first track could have been a bit shorter because it kind of winds down towards the end. It has like a bassy wind down, and then out of nowhere it just starts up again. And I think that it was a bit unnecessary. But what's my opinion worth versus his? Right? He's the recording artist. Now, track 2 is called Out of the Sun. So this is the eponymous track off the album, and this is the first time that we see Joey's economy picking really shine. So in the solo, he does 2 rising runs using economy picking. At least I assume it's economy picking because I think he is an economy picker. And it sounds great. I love it. It's instantly ear catching. It's very good. 0 Hour. This is the third track, and this is the one that really caught my attention. The first time I listened to this album. It's a very short track. I think it's less than 2 minutes long, and it's just very fierce neoclassical soloing right from beginning to end. I absolutely love this one, and it's just fierce soloing beginning to end. Lots of economy picking, lots of legato, very little gaps in sound. It's a really fierce piece, as I said. Now the fourth track. This called The Summon. It didn't really leave any sort of impression with me. I don't really have any opinions on it either way. I suppose it has some pretty melodies in it. Like I said earlier, that's pretty much the case for the whole album. But this one didn't really leave any lasting impression on me. And that's not too uncommon if you think about it. When you're listening to an album, it's very rare that you like every single track on an album. I can only think of a few albums which I like every track of. So that's fair enough, really, isn't it? Now, the fifth track, called Stalingrad. Paul Gilbert was hired to play some of the guitar solos, to help out the guitar solos on this album. But it's only, for me at least, I could only really detect his presence in this song in particular, Stalingrad, track number 5. And it's... Well, it's kind of like a rhythm that they do at the beginning, which is very much Paul Gilbert, and then the solo is unmistakably Paul Gilbert, because you get that fierce alternate picking sound that you hadn't really been hearing up until this point. This is a very good track. Again, to use the adjective again, it's a very fierce track. Yeah, I love the solo, definitely. Have a good listen to that. Now, oh, good. This Truce with Kings. This is probably my favorite track off the album, or second favorite, one of 2 favorites perhaps. This changes it up a bit. It changes the time signature, so you get that lovely triplet feel. It's got some lovely arpeggios there, done on the neck pickup, which is very melodic in the verses. I don't know if I have anything bad to say. If I have anything bad to say about this album, sorry, not album, about this track. Yeah, I think this one's very good indeed. Yeah, Fire in the Lake. This has some beautiful rhythm guitar undertones at the beginning, which really bring out the emotion of the track. And the track has some great melodies, emotional melodies, which are so memorable. Like I'm always humming them if I stop paying attention for a moment. I think the melodies are a bit simple. I think that, on the second and third repetitions, he could have done some more embellishment, like some whammy, or land on slightly different notes just to change it up a bit. But again, this is my artistic ideas versus his, and it's his album, so that's his business. I'm sorry to say, though, that I think the keyboard solo in this song absolutely wrecks it. I think it absolutely ruins the song. It's kind of like in Van Halen Jump, how you've got that guitar solo that just comes out of nowhere, completely inappropriate, and ruins the entire song. I think that the keyboard solo in this, Fire in the Lake, does the song no favors. And this would have been my favorite track on the album if that keyboard solo hadn't ruined it. And it's just because it does too many high, shrill arpeggios. It just overdoes it. But never mind, it's still a beautiful song, it really is. Samurai, so this is the second to last track on the album. And this, again, like track 4, The Summon, it didn't really leave any lasting impression on me. It feels like album filler. But that's open to interpretation, that's just my opinion on it. Now the final track, 9 Tomorrows. This is, this dives right in, a few drum hits and it dives right into this really memorable melody, probably the most memorable melody on the entire album, even though it's really simple. Well, maybe that's why it's so memorable, because it's very simple and effective. And this is the one that I find myself humming the most when I stop paying attention for a moment. And this album actually it gave me some interesting insight into Joey's composition or recording process, because there's a bit, and I'll just put the time up on the screen now, this far into the album, where he plays a lick, not once but twice, and then if you listen carefully you can actually hear that he did intend to play it a third time, because the lick starts to play just for a fraction of a second, but then he must have thought better of it and deleted it just to make it 2 repetitions instead of 3. But he didn't entirely delete that third repetition, so you can hear this little blip where he almost decided to play it 3 times. But his editing wasn't as clean as it could have been. That's a bit obsessive, but I caught that, and once you hear it, you won't be able to unhear it. Okay, so that's kind of like a very brief walkthrough of the tracks. Let's have a bit of a summary of the album in its entirety. So when I first heard this album, my first impression of it was, it's a Vinnie Moore Mind's Eye clone. And so I was a little bit hesitant, really, to like the album, because I thought it was a bit of a rip-off of Vinnie Moore Mind's Eye. Was that fair to say that? Yes and no. Yes, because it was done right after Vinnie Moore's album, like probably less than a year afterwards. Joey hired Tony McAlpine to do the keyboards, just like Vinnie Moore had done, and it was even recorded in the same studio, the same building, the very same premises, Prairie Sun in California. So it was probably even mixed and mastered and produced by the same studio staff. And you've got Tony McAlpine using the same famous keyboard tones that he used on Mind's Eye in this album, Out of the Sun. And there were just way too many similarities. So I really did think that it was a Mind's Eye, not a rip-off, a clone. But then I realized that I liked it for that, because I love Mind's Eye. And Joey had made a great album which really paid homage to that album, even if he didn't mean it. And then there's also the point that Vinnie Moore and Joey Tafolla, their playing style is totally different. You've got Vinnie Moore with his strict alternate picking, putting out that aggressive wall of notes, and then Joey with his economy picking and his legato, making it a different sound. Yeah, I started to feel that they are indeed separate albums after all. There's one more thing I will say about Joey. This was his first album. I'm pretty sure it was. And this is, of course, in like the neoclassical instrumental rock style or genre, isn't it? And he only did one of these. He did this, and then he immediately moved on to like blues and fusion. So I'm thinking, I don't even mean here. Was he being a poser, or was he trying to just make was he appealing to popularity? Did he make a neoclassical rock album just to get his foot in the door so people would know his name, so then he could then go on to make the music that he wanted to? Yeah, because it's strange that he just made one neoclassical rock album. I thought that was a bit strange, but that's just me overthinking and speculating. The fact of the matter is, the album is great. It's inspired me. I listen to it regularly. It's got so many beautiful and memorable qualities. All right, so overall, I'm going to be giving this album 3.5 stars. So thanks for watching this, and go and give it a listen and make up your own mind about it. And stay tuned for more album reviews. Thank you.